Youest listeners, my amazing soul family out there, I just want to tell you, you are in for such a ridiculous treat today. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. I'm sure if you've not heard of Amy Porterfield, after this interview, you're going to want to look her up, look up all of her work. She is amazing. Let me tell you about Amy myself. Amy Porterfield is an online marketing expert and the host of the top ranked podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy. Before building a multi-million dollar digital course business, Amy worked with mega brands like Harley-Davidson and Peak Performance Coach with Tony Robbins, where she oversaw the content team and collaborated on groundbreaking online marketing campaigns. Through her best-selling courses and popular podcast, which I'm a huge fan of, Amy's action by action approach proves that even the newest online entrepreneurs, that could be you, can bypass the overwhelm and instead generate exciting momentum as they build a business they love. So we will have, as always, all the show notes after I take notes. Do not worry, sit back, chill and relax. Of course, you can find everything at amyporterfield.com, her amazing work. We'll have all the notes. And Amy, seriously, what a gift to have you. You are like literally genius at the work you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here. This is going to be a fun conversation.
So excited. Me too. And I was thinking for those who might know you or not know you as well, just to, you have really had such a profound impact on thousands. I think it's more, I don't know, millions probably of entrepreneurs all around the globe, truly, as a global online marketing expert. And I think for those who don't know you as well, would love to just share a little bit about, I'd like to get a sense of your life kind of before you launched this business, and, the impetus to go on your own. So we'll start there.
Yes. Oh, I love this question because I talk about this a lot. So when I got out of college and started working in the corporate world, I thought I would be a corporate girl for life. I'm a rule follower. I like to climb the ladder. I felt like I would be in a corner office with windows, vice president of something, this or that. That was just my path. Never in a million years did I think I would own my own business and be an entrepreneur. Never on the radar. And so my last corporate job was with Tony Robbins, and I got to travel the world with Tony and his team and work on the content that he does on stage and in his digital courses. And I was on the content team. And one day he had this meeting where he brought in a bunch of internet marketers, and they were talking about their businesses and what they sell and what they create. And something inside me was stirring that day. And I thought, I don't know and they were all guys. There was no women at that meeting. And I thought, I don't know what these guys are doing, but I am craving more freedom. I just got to the point that although I was climbing the corporate ladder, I knew I would only make so much money working for someone else. And I also was newly married and I was traveling everywhere, never home. And I just thought, there's got to be something more here. So that desire for freedom and to call the shots and to be my own boss started stirring inside me. But it was probably a good year before I ever took the leap. But yeah, before I started my own online business, never thought of entrepreneurship and always thought I'd be a corporate girl.
I love this. And it's like, it's amazing because what you've created, and we'll get to this, is incredible. And I love like what you're saying, rule follower. You always thought you would stay in corporate. And obviously something shifted because you clearly made, the leap. I am curious. I know you've talked about this, that you talked about you created the wrong business early
Yes.
on until you realized that. I would love to know what was the wrong business.
Yes. Okay. So what happened was when I was in that one fateful meeting, the guys there were talking about the digital courses they created. They took their expertise, turned it into a digital course, launched it online, and had huge success. So I thought, I'm going to create digital courses. But even though I had worked on that at the Robbins organization, I didn't know how to do it on my own. So I thought, I'm going to quit and I'm going to create digital courses and sell them online. I quit. I went out on my own, didn't have a nest egg, even though I had it took me a little while to quit my job and take the leap. I didn't have a bunch of money saved up, so I needed to make money right away. But then I realized, holy cow, I don't know how to create a digital course from scratch. So I started to take clients and I started to do social media for small businesses. I had done some social media in my job with Robbins and I was self-taught and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And this was over 13 years ago when social media was the wild, wild west and no one knew what they were doing, but everyone was a social media manager. It was a weird time. So I was able to get in there and I started to take clients. And before I knew it, I had 8 clients that were paying me, which was a great thing, but I didn't know how to set boundaries. So here I was with 8 clients that literally were like my bosses, bossing me around, telling me what to do. I was a yes girl. I said yes to everything that came my way for fear that I wouldn't make enough money. And all of a sudden, I had all these clients that felt like bosses. And I thought, what freedom? Like, I have created a business that I'm working more hours than when I was in corporate. And I had one big boss, Tony, literally a big guy. Now I've got like 8 mini bosses. And I looked around and thought, I hate this. I have literally created a business I absolutely hate. And when I realized that moment, because I felt like I was always on the hook, I always had to respond to everyone and be there for everyone else. I wasn't creating and doing the things I wanted to do. That was for 2 years. And then long story short, I had a moment with a client where he was such a jerk. He's screaming at me on the phone. Something didn't go right, blamed me for it, but just the way he came at me. And I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. So within a few months, I teased, but I fired all my clients. And that's when I started to create my digital courses. But it took a lot of getting kind of beat up and not understanding boundaries for me to get to that place.
Ooh, I have chills as you're speaking because just that experience of getting into a business that you realize you hated, that takes, first of all, I'm sure that was really not a fun experience.
No.
Like, what the F did I just do? Like,
Yes.
what did I just do? And you mentioned this earlier, just about in this sea of mainly men. I think it's even more courageous, frankly, as a female entrepreneur and getting into this whole online marketing world. And I think to see, like, it sounds like you felt trapped
Oh,
in,
very much. And I
yeah.
was scared that I made the wrong decision. And what happened was all of a sudden I thought, wait a second, I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. I'm not made for this. I'm going to have to go back to my job. Like, I kept thinking I'm going to have to grovel back for my job because this is not working out as planned. And I wasn't making enough money either, so that didn't help. But a lot of self-sabotage and imposter syndrome was in my head daily during those first 2 years.
Okay. I am like obsessed with that whole, so many, and I know many of my listeners, and I've struggled with this imposter syndrome, with self-doubt,
Yeah.
all of it. How did you turn that around and pivot? Like, can you tell us, what did you do? Because you did something very
Yes.
right. What helped you?
Okay, so I think looking back about all the stuff that went down, because in my business, I teach people all the strategies, webinars, list building, launching, how to create a digital course. Like, I've got strategies coming out my ears. Like, I've got all the strategies for you. However, it wasn't the strategies back then that helped me, although I wanted to learn all of them. It was changing my mindset around what was happening. So here I was, created a business I did not love, wasn't making enough money, felt like I had to go back to my job. And then I realized, wait a second, why am I doing this? And my why was very self-serving in the beginning. Now my why is so much more about the people I serve. But in those early days, my why was I didn't want a boss. I mean, if I got really specific, I didn't want a man telling me what to do. All my bosses were always men. So I didn't want to be told what to do. I didn't want to create somebody else's dream, and I didn't want to be on somebody else's time. So my desire for that freedom and to call the shots and be creative on my own and build a business I love, all of that, my why had to be bigger than my worries. And so my why had to pick me up on the days that literally my worries knocked me to the ground. And I got really clear about my why, so that my worries wouldn't take over. And I also had to confide in people around me that I knew would support me. So not everybody got what I was doing. Like, I'm sure my parents were freaked out about, like, what do you mean you're quitting a job with benefits and great salary and so much security? A lot of my friends and my girlfriends didn't get it, but my husband got it. And so with that, on the dark days, I'd have to turn to him and say, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And he'd just keep reminding me every day that I was. So I confided in someone that believed in me, and I let my why lead me even when my worries kept knocking me down. And so that helped me immensely in order to get through. Like year 2 was really rough, but then year 3, when I changed things around, is when things started to finally pick up.
So I think this is very, very important. I'm even thinking, I'm sure hanging around Tony Robbins probably got some good
Yeah, that helped a
advice.
lot.
I was gonna say, I mean, he's got some real good strategies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love what you said so much. This is really, really important. Your why was way bigger, became bigger than your worries. And you focused on that. And of course, what you focus on expands, and finding
Exactly.
people to support you. I think that's an amazing story, because that doubt, like, that could have stopped you. You could have gone back, I'm sure, with other brands or other people, and you pivoted and you leaned into your, I mean, honestly, I don't say that lightly. I really think you have a genius, lady. Like,
That
legit.
means the world to me. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You really, so you pivoted. And I guess in terms of, that mindset, that's really, really the thing that helped you, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because once I got my mindset in the right place and realized I'm here to stay, I need to stop saying I'm going to have to go back to my job, have to ask for a job back or whatever. I need to stop saying that and stop focusing on that.
Yeah.
Once I got my mindset in place, like I'm here to stay, and I had a lot of failures in those first 2 years that didn't work out. My first digital course that I ever launched, I made a whopping $268 when everyone else felt like they were making millions. And so I thought, what's wrong with me? But I didn't let that define who I was. Like, this doesn't mean I'm not a good entrepreneur or business builder. And so defining the or putting a stake in the ground, saying I am not turning back, come hell or high water, this is working out one way or another. That's when things started to fall into place, and that's when the failures didn't knock me down too much that I didn't get back up, because I was like, there's no other option. When I work for Tony, one of the best stories he ever tells, and I'll never tell it as good as he does, but the punchline of the story is, when you're going after something you really want, you have to storm the island and burn the boats. And for me, at that 2 year mark, that's truly what I did. I stormed the island, I let go of my clients, started to create digital courses, and I burned the boats. So there's no going back. I've never taken a client since. I don't work one-on-one with anybody. It's just not my forte. And so once I told myself, this is what I am doing and what I'm not doing, I think the strongest thing you could do is be a person of your word to yourself. And when I started to keep the commitments that I made to myself, things started to fall into place. And that's when all the strategies, the list building, the webinars, the digital courses started to finally work.
It's interesting. You talked about the boundaries being kind of shady before, and what I'm
Oh,
hearing
yeah.
is you really tightened up. This is really okay. Everyone listening, this is really important, Amy. You created a boundary with yourself and your word, and it sounds like things started to literally shift. That you said, "I'm a person of my word." You got to be a person of your word to yourself. So
Absolutely.
that's really powerful. That's quite transformative. I think it's fascinating. I didn't realize the first course you sold. And I think it's helpful. People can see, like, oh my gosh, you're just incredibly gifted. I mean, there's not a lack of information or help. I mean, I'm still making my way. We'll talk about your course. It's so incredible. I'm like, this feels like my master's degree, kind of, but it's
Oh,
like
gosh. I love that.
beautiful and amazing. But so your first course, you said you made the $268 or something in that range. So what, like, I'm thinking those when we start, sometimes it takes a while, and you wouldn't
Yeah.
know that looking at what you're doing today. That's why I love hearing this. Maybe just share a little bit more about some of those challenges and growth opportunities, how you really kept your mindset in the state of, staying focused, even though maybe the
Yes.
outcome wasn't there.
So when in the first 2 years when I was taking a lot of clients, another thing that I did is I became a community manager for a really big social media website.
Mm.
And I'll actually, some people will know it's Social Media Examiner. And the owner of Social Media Examiner, Mike Stelzner, really mentored me in the early days of those first 2 years. And he invited me to become a community manager, was paying me to do so. And I started writing articles for the site and really got involved in that world. But again, if you look at my patterns, I'm working for somebody else. So being a corporate girl for life means that I'm very comfortable working for somebody else. I did like taking direction, and more so than taking direction, I liked the accolades that came with doing a good job and someone patting me on the back, because I didn't really love myself enough to pat myself on the back. So I was looking for all the external validation. So in the first 2 years leaving corporate, I got back into feeling like I was in corporate. I had clients that bossed me around, and I had a mentor that I worked for. And so that felt like a lot of security as well. And then what happened was, I realized I had some security blankets wrapped around me. I tell this story that my sister is older than me and she's in her mid 40s. And when she was born, my mom and dad got her a security blanket, a baby blanket, on like the first day of her life. And she still has that blanket tucked under her pillow at nighttime. I'm so embarrassed for her. You should see it. It's a ratty mess. But she has it under her pillow, and she's a married woman with children. And I tease her all the time, like, that's very weird. And she's like, I just need it close. I just need it close. And I think we all have security blankets, no matter where we are on our entrepreneurial journey. So some people have a security blanket because they're still at their 9-to-5 job and they desperately want to start their own business and move on. But that security blanket, it's comfy. It's what's known. It feels right for them where they're at. Well, for me, one of my security blankets after I left corporate was taking on these clients and then taking on a role as a community manager and realizing that I am still not free. I am still not doing what I set out to do. So I had to first let go of the security blanket. I talked to Mike Stelzner. He was amazing, but I let him know, like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go out on my own and not be paid to work for somebody else. So I needed to let go of that. Once I let go of all my security blankets that didn't work for me anymore, then I launched my first course, and I launched to crickets because I didn't know how to grow an email list. And I made, like I said, $268, and I cried for an entire week. We have a joke between my husband and I that I used to have this cotton black robe that I got from Target. I mean, not sexy at all. It's just this black robe that I would wear in the morning. Well, that week I didn't take it off all week. And there's one point he's like, I'm going to need you to get in the shower and take that robe off because you got to get back in the living. You can mope around for a few days, but that's enough. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely had a pity party. And then I had a friend of mine say that everybody has tough launches. This is part of being an entrepreneur. And he said these words to me. He said, being an entrepreneur is a constant state of troubleshooting what didn't work and how to fix it to make it work. And he said, this is what we all go through. And the minute I realized maybe I wasn't so different or broken or didn't have what it took, I thought, okay, then I'm going to become a master troubleshooter. And to this day, 13 years in, if you gave me a job title, I feel like it should be master troubleshooter because that's all I do. Every day I'm figuring something out that didn't work as planned or needs to be tweaked. And that is where I think my success has come from. So anyway, going back, not making any money on that first launch, looking around thinking everyone else did, but a mentor telling me this is par for the course. Realizing I wasn't alone and I'm more normal than I thought helped me immensely. So that's what I want other people to hear. That's what it's like being an entrepreneur, getting kicked down and getting back up.
Oh God. I think what I'm going to do, Amy, is put this in, record, take this little piece out just for myself when I go to bed. What you listen to before you go to bed and fade. I'm going to be like, yep.
Yes, it's tough. Yeah. It's a tough job. And that's why not many people do it or stay in it long enough.
Yeah, it is. And it's like going back to what you said, though, when your why is big enough, and I believe this fully, it's the boat that's going to carry you across the really challenging sea sometimes. So your boat, I don't know, just that was the visual.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Huge. And one little quick thing about my why. So I mentioned that my why was very selfish and about me in the beginning, which I have no qualms about. I think that is what carried me through. 13 years later, when I think about why I get out of bed every morning, my why has absolutely morphed with the growth of my business. Every single day, I know that there's a woman in a cubicle or in a job that she is not appreciated, underpaid, overworked, overwhelmed. And I know that I could help her create a business that she absolutely loves, where she is bringing money into the family. She gets to call the shots and she's being creative in her own right. So every day now, my why is I think of the woman in the cubicle or working at a 9 to 5 job that desperately wants out, knows she's made for more, but has no idea what to do about that. And that's when I want her to find me so I can help her. So the why, it's okay if your why changes over the years. And it's okay if you start out with just being, hey, I want out of this. I want more freedom.
Ooh, I got chills. I got to tell you, it was 8 years ago, but I was that woman. And I remember seeing your work, and between you, to be honest, you and Marie Forley, I used to watch
Ah,
Marie TV. Actually, I applied to be your customer happiness specialist and I got into the final. And it was funny. I didn't make it. I was like, thank God, because I did my own
thank
thing.
God, right?
Right. But both of you were I've just this full body, like, and I was in a great corporate job and I know what that's like. And I loved the accolades and I was doing well, but it was like, fine, not what you're talking about. And I remember both of you, and I was like, that is so true. This is not using my highest potential. It's just not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, and look at you now. That makes me so happy. I've got chills. I love that.
Yes, because of you. So and just to say, like, this is real, and it, and let's be honest, with the whole being underpaid, I was certainly, I great people I worked for, but I definitely was doing two jobs in one, and probably would have taken a third because I was also a yes girl. I'm like, sure, I'll just bring it on. And today, it's a whole different world.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love your why. And I am curious, I always sense that there's others, when I look at any successful, especially women, we tend to have other mentors and guides and people that, have been there along the way. I know you talked about, I think, Michael before, but I'm curious, who are some of the teachers, mentors, people, Amy, for you that really have helped to hold space for you, shape who you are, inspire you? I'm so curious. Who are some of those people?
So some of the early people in my life, one you already mentioned. So Marie Forleo, I met her when I was still at Tony Robbins. We were putting together a course about the new money makers. So these were people that were making money online. But the funny thing, it was called the new money makers because 13, 14 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the norm. And so we needed more women. And I approached her. We became fast friends. And once I left Tony Robbins, she was the first mastermind I joined. So to this day, she is a dear, dear friend, but she started out as just a mentor. And what I loved about Marie more than anything is that she did things on her terms in her way, and she still does to this day. She was a she was a firecracker back then. She's even more powerful today. And I think what I love about her most is her consistency. I love people that keep showing up week after week after week. So with my podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy, I do 2 shows a week, and showing up every single week has literally been the secret to my success of growing that podcast. We had over 1 million downloads just in January. That would have never happened if I didn't continue to show up consistently. And that I definitely learned from Marie. So she was one of my early mentors. Another person that is a dear, dear mentor of mine is Michael Hyatt. And Michael Hyatt has a company called Hyatt & Co. And funny enough, he lives here in Nashville. So I just moved from San Diego to Nashville, born and raised Southern California girl. So I've been freezing my buns off here in Nashville this winter. But it's been a year now. But one of the reasons I'm here is that we have a lot of friends here. Hobie and I, my husband, wanted to change. But Michael's here. Michael and his family, Gail, his wife, and his 5 daughters. And I love them dearly. And I love that a mentor has also become a dear friend that encouraged a big move in my life. But the reason why he's a mentor of mine is he's all about productivity and efficiency. And he's about creating margin in your life. He calls it intentional margin, where you literally are taking the time away so you can be amazing at what you do. For probably the first 10 years of my business, all I did was hustle. It's all I literally knew. I worked every weekend, worked every night, and that didn't bring me my success. It just is how I thought you had to do it. These days, my company has a 4-day work week. We work Monday through Thursday, take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, 20 full-time employees, and we're able to do that. And in addition to that, I genuinely value the time away from work just as much as the time I have in work. That hasn't always been the case. And my life is richer because of it. So those are two of the mentors that have really shaped kind of how I run my business and how I do things.
Oh, that's so, so helpful. I love, love, love what you're talking about. The margin, intentional margin.
Yes.
Brilliant. And I think it's important for people to hear this. I can tell you, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Amy. When the hustle mode, I feel like it's very, it's almost expected. And,
Yes.
my body, I'm a sensitive girl. I'm a sensitive empath girl who just, it doesn't work. And I've learned from, my body is very quick to be like, no, you need to go to
No.
sleep. You need to chill the F out. And that's not going to work.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, it doesn't work. Did you notice, I'm just curious, like in your body and your health, was there any ramifications of that hustle for 10 years?
Absolutely. For me, I deal with low level depression. I always have since I've been young. And so for me, that started to become almost a daily thing, that feeling of just I'm sad. My life is amazing and wonderful and I'm sad.
Mm.
And so that's one way it manifested. And then it also is manifested through anxiety and just feeling anxious all the time. And that still pops up for me sometimes, even though I'm working a lot less. And I, right then, like talking about your body being sensitive, the second I feel anxious, I'm like, okay, what's off here? What am I doing? How am I pushing, instead of just letting it, be easy? I have a good friend, Susie Moore. She always says,
Yes.
let it be easy. I love that. And so, yes, it absolutely shows up for me in terms of depression and anxiety. And I have to be very, very careful with that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that so vulnerably. And we had Susie here. I'm like, I have a little
You
card.
have.
Yes, I love her. I have a card that says, easy is right. Let it be easy. Like I
Ugh,
literally right over here. I have to look at it every day because the programming has been, you got to
oh,
push,
yeah.
you got to hustle, you got to and I think many of us, especially with a big why, it can feel like, oh my gosh, you could work 24/7, literally could work 24/7.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I think about my upbringing, and a lot of people I think can relate to this, never was I told by my parents, like, I think I was taught, like, if it's hard, then that means you're doing hard work. Like if it's rough and if it's taking a lot out of you, then you're doing really good hard work. And never was I taught, like, let it flow, let it be easy. I have this motto: what is meant for me will come to me. I will attract what is meant for me in my life. And if not, it's not going to come to me and it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't taught that kind of stuff. So I've noticed I've had to really shift my mindset around some hard taught rules of growing up. And let it be easy is one that I've had to adopt. I was not raised with that mentality.
I think we need a special support group. I really do, for all of us. Like
Totally.
recovering from the beyond
Yes.
overachieve, because my brain exactly is like, should be hard. You always had to work hard to do well. I did. I always had to work
Yes.
hard to do well.
It's so
Yeah.
true. To name drop a little bit for any resource for anyone wanting to explore this more, I feel like Kate Northrup. Do you know who that is, Kate
She
Northrup?
was on here.
Was she? Okay, great. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, I love her.
I feel like she is somebody who embodies this concept of the
Yeah.
anti-hustle
Yeah.
and go with the flow and let it be easy. Like she really walks the talk. So she's one of my favorites.
I think, and I have not got it yet. There's a planner I saw she came out
Yes.
with. I'm like,
The planner's all about that. I don't have it either, but I know what it's about, and it literally embodies everything we're talking about here.
yeah, it's helpful to hear you saying this because I know, 13 years in, 10 years of hustling. And my sense is that you've been growing over these last 3 years, even more so. And it's
Yeah.
helpful and healthy to hear actually, a 4-day work week, you have 20 people. That's really that's a boundary that you set. That's really impressive.
I wanted to no longer for years I said, I want this to be easier. I want to have more time with my husband. I want to step away from the business, but I never did anything about it. And then once we started the business is still thriving, still moving forward, still reaching goals. So I feel very fortunate about that.
So great. Oh, I'm so glad this topic came up. I feel
Me
like
too.
we can't say it enough. I'm going to put this in a little recording later and be like, Julie, you need to hear this. This is the thing about the podcast, right? I love doing these interviews and I'm always like, thank you.
Oh, same with me. When I do my interviews, I'm like, I needed to learn that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have to say, shout out to you and your podcast. A recent one that if it's okay, I have to say, you had Roger Love, who
Ah,
was
yes.
so fun. Who
Wasn't
does
he though?
Oh my gosh. And I have started to listen to my voice and the way that you breathe. And it was
Right.
just it was one of my
He's
faves.
so talented. He's so unique in the sense of what he teaches. So yeah, I take a lot of his lessons as well.
So good. Anyhow, so good. But yeah, I feel like doing a podcast is always just as much for the person interviewing as the audience. So
Absolutely.
you're speaking my language. I do want to talk about digital courses and all this whole area that I think, especially for a budding entrepreneur, or frankly, those of us who've even been in here in the in that spot for over 5+ years, you really are a genius at all things digital courses and list building and online marketing. And I am curious, do you think that courses are for everybody? And for those that are just starting, so your digital course academy, which is fantastic. I am making my way through it. It is really, I have to say, I've done a lot of courses. It is definitely, if not the top, it's one of the most incredible courses I've ever taken. It's
Thank
very
you.
thorough. I was like, this girl knows what she's talking about. Like, whoa, the worksheets. Another time I'm like, I don't even know how long that took you, but and they're beautiful,
It
which make
took
it
a
more
while.
fun. Yeah. I was like, that was not overnight, but I'm
Yeah.
curious for those that are like, I thought about a course. Like, what do you have to say for somebody who's just starting and is kind of questioning whether they should do one?
So I love this question because are digital courses for everyone? Well, what I'll say to that is I believe that everybody has a digital course in them. That doesn't mean everyone should create one. But when I say everyone has a digital course in them, what I mean by that is you do not need to be the expert of all experts with tons of certifications or lots of education behind you or lots of clout to create a successful course that you can sell online. What you need is what I call a 10% edge. You need to be 10% ahead of those who are going to follow your lead to learn what you know. So whether you've gotten results for yourself in any area of your life or results for your customers or clients, as long as you can teach how you got those results, you have a course in you. Whether it be you lost 20 pounds all on your own doing a specific system and you want to teach how you did that, absolutely. Or if you are really good at training your dog and your dog is like so well behaved when the doorbell rings, unlike my dog Scout, and doesn't jump on anyone, and you know the tactics to help that other people with their dogs, you've got a course in you. So as long as you've gotten results for yourself or somebody else, you can teach how you got those results and you lay out the roadmap through the course. Now, should everyone have a digital course? Well, I'm definitely biased because I believe digital courses give you freedom. And remember, my whole journey started out with I wanted more freedom. I don't want to coach one-on-one because there's only one of me. There's only so much money I can make, but also so much impact I can make when I'm only working one-on-one. Now, some people love one-on-one, and what I always say is increase your prices, take only the clients you love to work with, and supplement your revenue with a digital course. Having both is a beautiful business model. But for those who are thinking about a course, if you want more freedom, if you want to launch a course, teach in your course, and then get an opportunity to step back and take a breather, that's what I love about digital courses. So I think that anybody can create a course, absolutely. And I also think that with the pandemic, the digital courses have been on the rise by people taking courses. Years ago, people would think like, I'm not going to take a digital course for gardening, or I'm not going to take a digital course for piano. I want to go in person and learn, in real time. Then the pandemic hit where we couldn't be in real time, and people started learning online and realizing, holy cow, this is cheaper, more efficient, faster, really comfortable. So the world of digital courses opened up over the last 2 years. So now we're seeing even a bigger rise. So you're never too late to get in the game.
Oh, I love that. I'll just share really quickly. I have never done this before. Last week, I tweaked my back. She's doing better, but it was
Good.
not fun. And I found this little digital course on it was like so specific. It's like for women who do yoga, but still hurt their back and like don't know how to. And I was like,
Yes.
holy crap, that's me, girl. And I was like, thank God to the woman who created this. It's amazing. I didn't know these stretches. And I even used to be a personal trainer and I had no idea. And that's an example. Like you don't
That I
know,
love.
what that could help someone. So I gave her a shout out. I'm like, thank you for doing that.
Ah, so fantastic.
Yeah, I can help anyone who's listening now. If you want to know
Yes.
some great stretches that are very off the, you may not hear from others. So anyhow, super, super helpful. I also want to talk. I know you're also extremely well versed in building email lists.
Mm.
And this is really, for many, a challenging and can feel very like, where do I start? I don't know. I know there's so much to it, but just was thinking in terms of course, in addition to courses, if you're going to be starting on your own, you're going to want to start an email list. Do you have any tips for people beginning, what
Yes.
to do? What do we got?
Absolutely. So the first thing is, everything I teach, it starts with the mindset. And you've got to understand like the value of an email list, because what I always say is the energy of your business is directly tied to the strength of your email list. I'm going to repeat that one more time because it's important. The energy of your business is directly tied to the strength of your email list. What I mean by that is when I say energy of your business, I mean the engagement, the sales, the impact, the revenue growth, all of that is tied to your email list. Without an email list, you do not have a viable online business. And the reason for that is that if you build your business on social media, relying on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it might be, to grab your audience's attention, to sell your courses or memberships or coaching or whatever, at any given time, they can change the algorithm and boom, your business changes overnight. And in addition to that, a few months ago, Instagram and Facebook went out for hours. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it felt like the world shut down. It was the most bizarre thing. And
Yeah.
hour after hour after hour went by, and we couldn't communicate via Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And that, do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah. I think one of your face, like something had happened. I remember, and for myself too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, it was a big day. And we sent out an email that day. It was actually just coincidental. That morning, we had sent out an email for one of my list building courses. And within a few hours, we made $17,000 on the day that Facebook and Instagram were out. And that's the power of an email list, that no one controls that except me. And if I engage with my list and if I nurture that list, I will always have a way to make money. It's funny, my dad is a retired firefighter, blue collar to the bone, does not understand to this day what I do. Like, I'm scared to ask him, like, Dad, what do you think I do? Very confused. However, when I quit my corporate job and started my online business, he used to say, are you going to be okay? He was very worried for me about making money. And I said, Dad, as long as my email list is growing, and I tried to explain what that meant, I said, I will always be okay in my business. So every Sunday, or the first Sunday of every month, we get on the phone to chat. And every time he says, how's your email list doing? Because he knows that that means my business can be viable as long as that email list is healthy. So that's why I just want to set the stage. It's very, very important. Now, the challenge with email list building is it's not the most fun or sexy thing you can do in your business. It takes time. It takes focus, at least in the beginning. Like every day I'm growing my email list by hundreds and I don't even think about it. It's happening in the back of my business. But you can bet years ago, I was spending time building that foundation. So some tips for building the foundation so that it can happen organically in your business is number one, you got to have an email service provider. I'm a big fan of ConvertKit, but there's a lot of others that work just as well out there. Number two, you got to have a lead magnet. You've got to have some kind of freebie that feels really valuable to your audience. A video, a cheat sheet, an audio file giving value in some way so that people are like, ooh, I really want that. And they're willing to give up a hot commodity, their name and email, in exchange for that for free. And then the third thing is you've got to be willing to talk about this lead magnet anywhere and everywhere people will listen. It's not enough to mention it once and then hopefully people will find it. I'm talking twice a week in different ways on social media. You want to mention it. That's where social media becomes really valuable, mentioning your list building opportunities. So you got to set up that foundation, but I promise you, once that foundation is set up, it definitely feels more organic and easier.
That's a great story. First of all, I had no idea about your dad. Didn't you marry? Isn't your husband a
Hobie,
firefighter?
yeah, Hobie's a
Hobie?
retired firefighter. So my dad was a firefighter and then Hobie became a firefighter. So yes.
Wow. Can we just pivot for a second? I want to go back to this email list building, but something you said I think is important. And I know this is something that, whenever I do shows on money and especially for women and being comfortable, expanding your capacity, your ability to receive and to be comfortable, I think it's amazing. Clearly it doesn't sound like you grew up necessarily with what you're seeing now.
No.
And
Yeah.
you're so cute about your dad. I love
Yeah.
that.
No clue. Yeah.
Right. He's like email list, whatever. Just an email
Yeah.
list. um, what helped you to expand your capacity around money and comfortability and abundance? Because this is a question I can't even count how many times I hear about this, and I get it. And it's something I've worked through and I know many have. What has helped you to expand that capacity?
The capacity of the opportunity to make more money.
To make more money, to be comfortable with receiving. I think for some
Mm.
women, you're used to the day job, you get paid a
Hmm.
certain salary, being okay with it, feeling worthy, whatever that is for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in my early years of growing my business, I definitely held on to my money tighter and was afraid of losing it. And it's funny, the things that are most hurtful for us can also help us grow. I used to have a business partner for a very short period of time. And when things weren't working out with us, he mentioned to me kind of under his breath, he said, I know how you are with money. And this was years and years ago. And I was very mad at him. So I'm like, what do you mean how I am with money? And he says, I just know you hold it so tight. And in that moment, I look back and I thought he has a point here. I'm operating out of fear
Mm.
that, what if I don't what if I don't do good in my next launch? What if something happens and I need this money? So I held it tight and I was fearful of it. And I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. The minute he said that, and I thought, I don't want to be that person. I want to feel more abundant and open my arms and my heart to say, whatever's possible will come my way. And so I started to spend my money on my business in different ways. I started to invest in team members. I started to build up my software that was needed and just let go a little bit instead of holding it so tightly. And I told myself every day, there's more of this where it came from. Like this, I will continue to be abundant as long as I continue to stay in the game and don't give up. The minute I started to spend it on my business, the minute I literally became a multi-million dollar business, I had to kind of just let go, and it made a world of difference. So I hate that I had to learn that from someone who was basically putting me down, but I did learn that lesson and that helped immensely. And I did come from a dad who it's all about saving, never spending, being fearful of losing the money. Like I was taught all of that as a child. Money doesn't grow on trees and all of that. But I had to change my mindset in order to hit the $1 million mark in my business. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think for me and hearing this, because of to me, it's also that money equals impact and you're making
Yes.
a huge impact. And, investing, I think under it, I'm hearing is believing in yourself, believing in your dream, your vision, your why, and supporting that with people with the right, what you needed to expand. And I think that is important. I'm not saying all women, and I know this is for men too, but I really do see this, I'm sure you do too, with women where there's the fear, like you
Mhm.
said, we were all taught different things, but I know it's very similar.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really love that. There's always more where this came from, but also when you started to invest, i.e., really believe in yourself, put your money where your
It
mouth is.
made a world of difference. Yeah.
That's an amazing story. All right. I do want to go back for a minute to this like whole online world, digital marketing for someone starting out. I got to tell you, when I left, I mean, literally, I left my job. I was like, here I am. I had one coaching client, one personal training client, and like that, then things shifted thankfully. But I was like, okay,
Yes.
where the F do I begin? It's like the craziest pool to jump into. Do you have any like just for those, because I know a lot of listeners are either getting started, are on the road, maybe thinking about it. Like, where do you begin in this whole, online marketing world? You
Yeah,
start.
so that's such a great question. And I've been working on my very first book, and it is about getting the courage to leave behind what is no longer serving you and move into becoming your own boss. And one of the things that we talk about in this book is that, where do you even start? Like, how does this even, how do you get the ball rolling? And one of the things that I think helps immensely is this idea of starting to create content. And I remember it wasn't even that long ago. The word content, it was so foreign to me. And I literally worked in the content department at Tony Robbins. So this is very weird that I'm saying this, but I remember watching Kim Kardashian on a Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and she was taking all these pictures in this sexy bikini, and she's like, I need more content. I need more content. Like, what the heck is she talking about? Content. But then I realized, oh my gosh, it's used in mainstream now. Like anybody who is posting online is thinking about the content that they're creating in order to attract an audience. So my point being is that when you're just starting out, let's say you're still in a 9 to 5 job, let's say you're still doing your thing, but maybe you start a side hustle. And that side hustle, it needs to start with you creating consistent content. What that looks like is, first of all, setting up at least one social media channel. Let's say it's Instagram. But beyond that, one of the most powerful things you can do is start a podcast, a blog, or a video show without even worrying about how you're going to make money just yet. If you have the luxury of not having to worry about that just yet, creating content not only allows you to figure out what your audience likes and doesn't like, but it gives you the confidence to start putting yourself out there. When I work with Tony, I was behind the scenes, never on video, absolutely not. And no one knew who I was. So when I had to come out from behind that computer and show my face, I was mortified. So it took me a long time to get comfortable getting on video or podcasting or anything like that. But the sooner I did it, the easier it got. Like I just had to get going. So start creating content, putting stuff out there, adding value. It will allow you to start shaping what type of business you might want to create.
That is fantastic and it's doable. It really is. It's a great place
Good.
to start. It's very similar to what I did. I wish I'd heard you 8 years ago, but I was like, well, at least I can just start sharing some thoughts.
Yes, that you just got to start doing it. It's so true.
Yeah.
Most people will never start their online business because they literally are trying to be perfect online and they're too scared to post something that other people are going to think like, what are they going to think? Real quick, I got to tell you, when I first was starting out, I was very hesitant to post anything online when I officially quit my job. And one day I was talking to my husband about it, and I just said, I'm embarrassed. Like when I start to post about social media tips and tricks, what is Tony going to think? Because I didn't do social media when I worked for him. I just dabbled in it behind the scenes. And so he doesn't see me as a social media person. So I'm like, what is Tony going to think? And my sweet, sweet husband took my hand and he said, Amy, I don't really think Tony's thinking about you. He's got a lot of important stuff to do. He's not really caring if you're going to post a blog post about social media or not. And I realized no one cares as much as I care. They're not worried about what I'm going to do. And if some old friends are like, who does she think she is? Who cares? They're not paying the bills.
Yes.
So worrying about what other people are going to think when you post is literally the death of you growing an online business. So just be really careful with that trap because I almost got stuck in it.
That is your husband's so wise. That's such a good comeback. And I would imagine he
He
probably
doesn't care. He's not looking. So it's all good.
no. Oh my gosh. I have to say, I can only imagine. I just know he has energy from somewhere that like
It's
I
unnatural. It's insane. And how he is on stage is exactly how he is behind the scenes.
Yes.
So it's like he is true blue, that much energy, that much passion, 24/7. So he's pretty special, that's for sure.
Well, I just think his poor hands, the clapping. I'm like, did you get into? I always think of him like, I hope he's okay. It's a lot of clapping. A
Oh,
lot of
that's
clapping.
funny.
Yeah, he's a special one. I always think like, if I can just conjure a little bit of that energy, I think.
Right?
Oh
Give me
my
1 ounce
word.
of that. I
Yeah,
agree.
he is unbelievable. I am curious. One of the last questions before we wrap. These last 2 years obviously have been incredibly challenging, tough, huge opportunity for pivoting. I'm curious for you, how has your life, both professionally, both personally, shifted because of the pandemic? And what have you? Is there anything now that is feeling like either more important or maybe just your aim has maybe shifted a little bit? I'm curious, how have these last 2 years, how have they impacted you?
One of the big things that has happened is I actually moved during the pandemic. So, like I mentioned, I was born and raised in Southern California. And partly why we moved to Nashville, my son went away to college, but also my husband and I looked at each other and thought, we need to shake things up. We need to change. I love California with all my heart, but it also got a little bit weird. Things got a little crazy. And so we thought, let's do this. We've talked about it for years. Let's just do this. And so this move definitely had to do with the quarantine and being removed from everything and wanting to shift things and change things up. So that's one thing. But another thing that's changed in my business is that I value time away from work more than I ever had before. I think what the pandemic taught us is like what's most important. And when we moved to Tennessee, my husband retired from the fire department, and so he didn't want to start over. When you're a firefighter, you literally have to start from scratch in most new cities. And he's almost 50. Well, he is 50 now, and he's like, I am not competing against 21-year-olds. And so he retired, but he's home while I'm working. He's busy doing all the stuff, but I love that he's home every day. Every other day he was gone. Every other day I was alone. And so being close to him and having that, I think my marriage has gotten stronger. I've realized what's most important, and really, I think got my priorities on a little bit straighter than they were before. So there's a lot about the pandemic that was absolutely horrendous and horrible. And there were some silver linings. And I think getting my priorities straight was one of them.
Mm. I'm amazed that you did move during that time. That was
Yeah, it was rough. I did have a rough year last year, moving to a new place, and I am not used to the cold. And so I complained for 9 months about being freezing, but I'm over that. I'm done complaining and I'm starting to love it.
You're in one of the best cities. Oh my gosh, so
It
fun.
is great.
So fun. So the last question, I always reserve, I call them heart flares, Amy, where you have this like, you didn't ask me this, or I just wanted to share something, any heart flare, anything that either I didn't ask you that's just sort of there for you that you wanted to share.
Such a great question. I think if you were to ask me what am I most proud about of building this business I've created, I think one of the most things I'm proud about and is near and dear to my heart is that I have a team of 20 full-time employees, and 19 of them are women. And many of them are in leadership roles. And their little ones, their daughters and sons, get to see their moms in these amazing leadership roles, doing really big things, changing lives. And I'm most proud about that because I want, especially these little girls. I'm thinking of one of my employees, Jaws. She's got this little one, and she gets to see her mama do big things and help me run a business. And I'm hoping that's going to be her example. I hope we create a lot of little entrepreneurs based on what the moms in my business are doing. So I'm most proud of the women leading the way, and I want to see more and more of that.
That is fantastic. Okay, that is a fantastic heart flare. That is really, to me, you talked about what you saw growing up. That's the most important modeling we can do. I think that is beautiful. And I think it's fantastic. 19 out of 20
Right. And then shout out to
Dang.
Josh, our one guy on the team. We love him dearly.
Josh, you are a special strong
I tell
man.
him he's the luckiest man alive.
Yes. Yes, yeah, it's like being raised by, the
Exactly.
women. Good. That
He's
is
amazing.
awesome. Shout out to Josh. Well, Amy, if you ever want to come back, this was delicious. This was just you're a delight. You're such a genuine inspiration. And
Ah,
really, I leaned on your wisdom before I started this. So it's very cool, to be
well,
able to get to talk to you.
thank you. Yeah, it's very special that I get to talk to you and that I got to be a little tiny piece of your journey. It means the world to me. So thanks so much for having me.